In today's lesson, we're going to learn about the Columbian exchange and sugar trade plantations. So at the end of today's lesson, you should be able to explain the effects of the Columbian exchange and how the sugar trade was driven by chattel slavery. So the old world, or what Europeans knew about the world, was the Eastern Hemisphere. So they knew about Africa, Europe, and Asia. But in the 1400s, they began to explore, and interactions with indigenous peoples in the Americas began to happen and led to massive changes across the globe. So in the New World, Europeans set up colonies. Portugal set up Brazil, Spain set up Mexico and South America, France set up Haiti, Guadeloupe, and Martinique. England claimed North America, Barbados, and Jamaica, and the Netherlands claimed Antilles and Aruba. So the Columbian exchange is during a European exploration of the Americas. It was a widespread exchange of animals, plants, culture, disease, and ideas, and they began to fuse between the Western and Eastern hemispheres. They were trading all of these things. So some of the things that came from the New World are included on this list. I'm not going to read them to you because you can pause this video and read them yourself. Those items were sent from the New World to the Old World. The pink items were sent from the Old World back to the New World. So there is some exchange happening. There's an impact on economics. New industries like cattle ranching, coffee growing, and roasting pop up. There's an increase in trade, and the encomienda system, which you guys already learned about, in Spanish colonies used Native American labor on European-owned land. It was only European-owned because the Spanish took claim of that land. Excuse me. There was an impact on indigenous peoples. Obviously, conquistadors attacked the indigenous peoples, or the Native Americans that were living in South America, in order to take over their land and their resources. They killed thousands there. But they also brought diseases that the Native Americans hadn't been exposed to and didn't have immunity built up against them. So disease ended up wiping out over 90% of the Native American population. One of those diseases was smallpox. So you can see in this picture, natives were actually purposely given blankets by the Spanish to give them smallpox, and it killed out a lot of their population. There's also an impact on culture. There's massive cultural diffusion. Christians set out to convert people to the Christian religion, and missionaries built schools and spread European languages, which led to a cultural suffering of indigenous religions and other aspects of their culture. So triangle trade is what we call this trade network between Europe, Africa, and the Americas. It's transatlantic, meaning it goes over the Atlantic Ocean. Exports included natural resources, cash crops, manufactured goods, and enslaved people. So the passage between Africa and the Americas and the Caribbean is what we call the Middle Passage. You guys already learned about this, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but it was them importing slaves from the African coast. Mercantilism is an economic theory that a country can gain power by building up their wealth. So what governments did was they tried to ensure exports exceeded imports and accumulated wealth in the form of gold and silver. It promoted colonization and exploitation of indigenous and native peoples. And then lastly, sugar trade in the Americas. Extracting sugar from the sugarcane was a really grueling process. Slaves had to use sharp double-edged knives to cut the stalks. It often led to them cutting off their limbs. Once those stalks were cut, they were taken to a mill where the sugar juices were extracted from the cane. It took 24 hours a day, so they worked long, grueling hours in dangerous conditions. Many slaves died quickly in these conditions. Their life expectancy was only from 4 to 7 years, which meant in order for slave owners to keep turning a profit and to keep labor cost, well, there is no cost, free labor. In order to keep free labor, they had to replace those slaves very quickly, which led to more and more slaves being bought from the Middle Passage. That's the end of our notes today. Thanks.